Okay, with the first presidential campaign since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade well underway, Republican candidates are, they're trying to find their way forward. I was talking to a reporter today that called me and was asking me about this. This part of the book has not been written. Most were surprised that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And so after nearly 50 years of working to advance life, successfully, I might add, there was no next chapter on what to do post-Roe. And so it's taking a little bit of time to chart the way forward. And some are doing better than others. And I will say that I'm disappointed with former President Trump, who was a great pro-life president. But post-Roe, he, like some others, are having a difficult time finding their way forward. I've had conversations with him. I'm trying to help him and the other candidates that I've talked to, that there remains a federal role on the life issue. I want to play this clip. Again, I played it yesterday. This is from Meet the Press, clip number 11.
Now, would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
All right, he's talking about a pain bill, a 15-week pain bill. It's a bill that would prohibit abortion nationwide once a baby feels pain, once it's in the mother's womb, sucking its thumb. And then he goes on to talk about the heartbeat bill that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed, which I support. I support protecting life from the moment of conception on, but we have to come to a place of consensus. There is consensus right now over pain. When a child feels pain, about 70% of Americans say, at that point, for the whole country, we should draw the line. States can go further, but they can't do anything less than that. And just one thing I want to address here, where he says, we'll sit down and negotiate something. I appreciate the president, the former president, in his view of negotiations, but look, you're not going to sit down and negotiate with Planned Parenthood. All right, it's not going to happen. What can happen is the American people, through the legislative process, will reach consensus. That's what the court ruling did by putting this back into the hands of elected officials, both at the state level and the federal level. And again, that consensus is building at the federal level at the point of pain. In the states, many states, all the way to conception, Oklahoma, heartbeat, Ohio, Florida, several other states, almost 20. All right, joining me now to talk about this, Meg Kilgannon, Senior Fellow for Education Studies here at the Family Research Council, and also been doing a lot of work on the life issue. Meg, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hey, Tony, it's great to be here.
So there's a clear contrast on this issue among the parties. We continue to see Democrats refusing to draw any line, simply denying that they're for abortion up to birth or after birth, even though they're on record saying as such, but they won't draw the line anywhere. Is the president and other Republicans muddying the waters on something that's been quite clear?
Well, I think that the whole country is unsure what the path forward is. Even people like you and me who are completely pro-life from conception to a natural death, right? We don't know what this is going to look like as it plays out politically. And I keep hearing this clip and seeing it played, and NBC is an outlet that's happy when I'm sad and sad when I'm happy. And the media is constantly picking a fight between Republicans and the people who vote for Republicans, or pro-lifers and the people who vote for pro-lifers. And they're constantly shoring up people on the left and the Democratic Party. And so with all of this conversation, I mean, I'm putting this into the whole context of the constant nagging sniping that they do with candidates on this issue, trying to sow dissent among people who are basically united as being pro-life. And when you look at the record of the president on life, he has a fantastic record on life and religious freedom. at the Pray Vote Stand Summit, it took him quite a bit of time to list out all the things that he had done and all the things that Family Research Council had worked with him on.
Right.
For our
Meg,
folks. So
I'm going to stop you right there for just a moment, because I understand I don't believe the legacy media, but I do believe I've talked to the president on this, and there is this misconception that this now is primarily a state issue. And I'm not sure, who has been, I do know who's been pushing this thing forward. But that's a part of his thinking here, I think, is that, all right, we got Roe gone, now it belongs to the states, because we've talked to him about that. But there remains a federal role here.
Sure.
And I don't think we want to have no restrictions at the federal level. And I'm not suggesting you're saying that, but I'm just saying, we're trying to find a place where there's consensus, so there's a minimum at the federal level. States can go further. And I think there's a couple of Republicans that get that, but even Ron DeSantis does not agree with a federal role. And so I think we've got to bring these candidates along, because they haven't thought through this post-Roe.
I think that's right. And whatever any of the candidates say, whether there's a Republican in the White House or a Democrat in the White House, it doesn't change the work that Family Research Council does to advocate for the unborn in this country.
Right.
And around the world, for that matter.
Right.
Our job is the same. We hold everyone accountable, because there have been Republican presidents who said perfect things about pro-life. People in the Congress and the House of Representatives right now, and they don't do anything. Right.
But Donald Trump did do stuff. So I agree with you, but we're in a different world post-Roe that we've got to do a lot of education on. It was a part of our discussion at this summit this past weekend. In fact, I moderated a panel. I had Congressman Chris Smith, the one's going to question his pro-life credentials. And I want to play a clip and get you to respond to that. Play clip number 14.
The Dobbs decision could not have been clearer, both Alito and Kavanaugh's concurring opinion, that all lawmakers, not just state lawmakers, all lawmakers have a critical role to play with regards to abortion. We write laws, we can regulate it, we can proscribe it, prohibit it, but we need to do it, and we need to step up.
Both state and federal have a role post-Roe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so do people who make arguments in the culture, as we advocate politically, but we're also trying to shape the culture. And we're still trying to make abortion unthinkable, unnecessary, and unthinkable, right? And that will continue. There's absolutely a role for it's all hands on deck to protect life, right? And we want strong protections for life in this country. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that for 50 years, men and women have ordered their lives around the backstop of abortion, right? And it is going to take a while for this country to readjust. And we're going to have to help people to understand what is in the womb. It's a baby. It's a human life.
Right.
It is the greatest blessing of all time. Parenthood is a joy, right?
So while the landscape has changed a bit post-Roe, the tactics really haven't. Because what you're describing is, and that's what I've been saying, we just need to go back to what we've been doing for 50 years. We just need to keep making incremental gains. We need to be talking about the humanity of the unborn, using technology to our benefit. So, I mean, it really, in some ways, it hasn't changed, other than we have greater ability to affect the change because now it's in legislative bodies.
Right. And we have opponents who seem unwilling to change, right? They are clinging to that Roe versus Wade construct of abortion on demand up until birth, right? And that is no longer the state of
But they're
play,
lying about their
America.
position. They're lying about their position.
They are.
When the vice president was pressed on this, where would she draw the line? We just want Roe. Well, most Americans don't know what Roe is. Roe is unfettered abortion. And they want it at taxpayer funded. They want you and I to fund abortion with no limits all the way up till birth. They won't admit that, but that's what they want.
Right. And this is where educating people and talking about this issue is so important, whether it's us doing it in the political realm, having a conference like the Pray Vote Stand Summit where we come together and speak to a larger audience, or people in churches, talking about this with your fellow church members, talking about this with your neighbors. It's a topic that's difficult to bring up, but it's a very, very personal and human topic. And there's a lot of ministering that people can do to those in their community.
Right.
Just lending a sympathetic ear and discussing this topic, I think, goes a long way to building that culture of life that we need to have.
Our work is far from over. It just means we have greater access to affect the change as we build the consensus, as hearts and minds are changed. Meg Kilgannon, thanks so much for joining us. Always great to see you. I hope my manners were appropriate. Good to see you.
Your manners were great. You were great. I loved that segment before. It's so important.
All right, Meg. Good to see you.
Thank you.